Well, it's time to do Duncan's story. Duncan lived with my daughter for many years, but let's go back to the beginning. The first time I was introduced to birds, it was a bird named Jamie. He was a little cockatiel that was at my work. That is a whole story in itself, but I just loved Jamie. I thought he was the most amazing creature in the world, and I fell in love with birds from him. So I wanted my own bird. I found this little cockatiel named Duncan, and we purchased her. I think my daughter was about 10 or 12 at the time. Anyways, I just loved birds, and I was obsessed with Duncan. And if you watch this video, you can tell that the feeling is not mutual. Duncan is not fond of me. She's like the most miserable bird I have. Like, she's the one who hates me the most. Well, I mean, not hates me, she'd rather not. She just doesn't like me. I'll do in a pinch, but if she had a preference, it's not me. So anyway, so she just didn't like me, and she attached herself to my daughter. She loves my daughter. Right from the get-go, she loves her. When my daughter would walk in the room, Duncan would sing. And she still does. When she walks into the room, she sings these pretty little songs. So, of course, my bird that I wanted so bad didn't like me. I think that's normal for some people. Like, if you're going to get a bird, they may not like you. Anyways, so I ended up adopting Jamie too. So I had two cockatiels, Duncan and Jamie. I knew nothing about birds. You get two birds and they live in the same cage. But that's not the case. You should always be prepared to have two cages for your birds. Anyway, so Duncan and Jamie were in the same cage. It's a huge cage. I ended up having to separate the cage in half so that Jamie could have his own private spot because Duncan was a bully, like a total bully. She wouldn't let him eat or anything. She's just a boss bird. Well, as my daughter got older and she started experimenting with moving out on her own, she would miss Duncan and Duncan would miss her. There came a point when my daughter had a little bit more stability, a solid job, and not moving a lot. So anyway, so she just took Duncan with her. It was best for Duncan and it was best for her. Now, years later, Duncan and my daughter are living in a different city with not good access to avian medicine. So Duncan wasn't doing well, and she'd been to the vet locally there a couple times. And I'm afraid the recommendations they made didn't help Duncan. Duncan is an excessive egg layer. Like, she'd lay eggs like 6, 7, 8 eggs. One of the recommendations was for Duncan not to eat seed, which is just one of the things that contributed to her poor health. Anyways, my daughter was really getting worried about Duncan, and so she asked me to take Duncan to my vet. So I did. I brought her here, and she spent some time at the clinic. Now she's on medications. I think they were infections or something like that. She needs regular vet checks, and her doctor doesn't recommend Duncan going back to that town with Junsa anytime soon. So here she stays, and she's the grumpiest girl of the flock. She enjoys Brad. She likes to sit with Brad on the sofa. During the day, she's out. She cannot be out when the other birds are out. She's a really good flyer, and she could easily fly into a bird's mouth or land on their head or get her leg bitten off or her tail or whatever. So when the other birds are out, she is locked away. She cannot be in the bird room. What if one of the birds escapes and they can easily open her door and kill her or whatever? Coco used to be really obsessed with her, but she's chilling out a bit now. She can't have any access to paper at the bottom of her cage because it starts creating nesting behavior. Laying eggs is really hard on birds, and now that she's older and she's laid so many in her lifetime, it's not a good idea. So that is Duncan's story. She doesn't have a sordid history or anything. She's just been spoiled her whole life with us the whole time.